Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on the inaugural summertime edition of the LaunchPad Associate Workshops. We have Dana Desarle joining us this afternoon. He is the Director of Instruction at Arrowwood Golf and Country Club in Reno, Nevada. He is a PGA member recently by way of a number of different trades, and his story is he's got a wonderful story, and I was blessed to learn about it earlier today. And here we are. The summertime edition of the LaunchPad series is kicking off. The LaunchPad Associate Workshops is a 8-week-long classroom interactive setting where each book of the Level 1 Pro Golf Management Level 1 Experience Kit is tackled by a different presenter every week, where we go through each level of the Level 1 Work Experience Kit, and we have a presenter that has gone through the program in the in recent time. I think a lot of times the long-standing PGA membership is at a loss with their associates just because it's been so long since they got their Class A. So the main purpose of the associate workshop is to bring in pros, PGA members that have recently gone through the program that can talk about each one of the levels, and for associates that are now going through the program, they can expand their resources and support group on how to tackle each of the books. So Dana, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It's all yours.
All right, well, thanks for having me. When the opportunity came to speak to a group about getting through the program, I was happy to do so. Getting the coursework, and as Tom said, the blood, sweat, tears, and overwhelming amount of work that it feels like to get through, I was, hopefully I can share basically some of the tips and some of the things that helped me get through. My story real quick is that this is my second career. I started out in the PGA as my first career, but I'm 53 now. And so I grew up playing junior golf, high school golf in a small town in Trinidad, Colorado. It's south of Pueblo. And then I played on the golf team at Scottsdale Community College, 87 through 89. And from there, I went into the military. I went into the Navy. I wanted to get some college money, and I was kind of getting sick of college. I still wanted to play golf, though. And so I went in, got my GI Bill, and I was stationed in Fallon, Nevada, which is 50 miles outside of Reno. And then while you're in the military, you keep your college eligibility. So then I played on the golf team at Nevada Reno in 93, 94. And then after I graduated, turned professional and attempted to, play the mini tours, things like that. I went to Q school here in Dayton, Nevada. Phase 1, it was very first year they had it here. I was there in 96. I was actually paired with Nota Begay the first 2 days. So that was pretty cool. But in 94, we moved to Las Vegas because obviously I was playing tournaments, and I worked at Angel Park Golf Club, got in the program there, went through the PAT, started in the program, everything. And after working there a couple of years and then not progressing as far as playing, actually, and I probably played about 26 different mini tour events and spent about, I always figure I spent about $25,000 and made $5,000. So it was a fun journey, but that didn't last. And then I was teaching there, and I was recruited into the mortgage business by one of my students. And so then I went in active, and then I stayed as an unaffiliated professional because I didn't finish through the program. And then we moved back to Reno in 2000. And I was actually a middle level manager at Wells Fargo Home Mortgage for Wells Fargo for years. And then I was a member at the club at Arrow Creek, which is where I'm now an employee. So it was pretty interesting. So I was a member there for 10 years. And then when I knew I turned 50 in 2017, I wanted to get back in the program and finish what I started as this being my second career. And so I became an employee at the club that I was a member at. And So my story's pretty interesting because I was a club champion there 3 times in the stroke play, and then the match play, and was player of the year. So, and a lot of friends, and played with a lot of groups. So my student clientele is easy because I was there and I know everybody. So I'm very lucky to be there. I'm very fortunate to be there. And then we actually had a very wealthy individual join the club, and he's rebuilding everything. And we have an amazing teaching center and things like that. So I got started back in the program. I had to retake my PAT because now at least you can turn in scores, but I did my PAT back in August of, redid it in 2018, I believe it was. Yeah, August 2018. I actually did it at Sacramento at Hagen Oaks. So got everything started there. And I approached this like I did, college courses. And I couldn't believe how difficult and how much work there was. I mean, when I added up the time between the 40 hours of coursework that you did the live seminar, now you're doing 60 hours of coursework after it, then the written exam, it's pretty overwhelming. And my strategy was, I say this to my kids now, they're in college, you got to eat the elephant one bite at a time. It's a massive undertaking. So one of the things that helped me was to just make sure I accomplished something every day. I would sit down with my cup of coffee, and whether it was 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes, I was like, okay, I have to log in to the portal on Canvas. I've got to look at each activity I'm on, and is there an activity that I can do 5 or 10 minutes of work on? And a lot of times I would just jump into the Word document. So I saved them all after the seminar. And then, I would just go into one of them and I would start writing information. Grammar didn't have to be perfect. I think a lot of times we try to wait until we think we have the perfect thing to say or type in there. And so I would just put my ideas in there, and then I would go back the next day, and then I would, mess with the grammar or whatever and make sure that the punctuation, everything was correct. But it was just doing a little bit at a time every day. I'm sitting there with my coffee, 15 minutes, half hour. And, I was lucky that I went to level 1 in, PGA headquarters. And then I did level 2 and 3 during the pandemic, and I did it on Zoom and on the webinar. And I was like, I'm just going to take this time and crank this out. So I just recently completed and finished everything in June. So it took me about 2.5, almost 3 years, but I felt like we really should have a master's degree in golf, but or at least, when you go to the education process through it for the college program, I mean, yeah, I feel like it was 2 years worth of college. Yeah, it's undergraduate, but 2 years worth of college that I had to do again at my age. It was quite the challenge, but that was the biggest thing, was doing a little bit every day. And then, for example, like on this player development section, John, can you go to the next page on that, and I'll jump into player development. But this is interactive. We have time. So as John and Tom were stating, if you have questions at any time, you want to just jump in, just unmute yourself and feel free to throw out any questions. This PowerPoint is not detailed by any means. I probably speak more through it than what's in the PowerPoint. But for me, player development can be anything. You can design your own program. I'm not the most creative guy, so I was like, hey, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel on this thing. I'm just going to take what is pretty much out there already or what's working, and I'm going to go with that. And of course, we have Junior League and the other programs that are already on there, and different clinics. So in our case, we already had what we called the ladies instructional clinic. So my director of golf, which was great, he had started with the ladies group. They just did every Tuesday for an hour, they did a instructional clinic, and I think it was basically $5 per lady. We'd have anywhere from 10 to 20 of them out there. And it was on a group we call the Niners. So it was all the beginning ladies. And we would just have them come out to the range or putting green or whatever we were doing. And we would give them all 10 minutes of instruction. We bounced back between them. And it was great because on player development, to get through this portion, you have to have your promotional material, pictures of what you're doing. So it's pretty simple. We had a flyer, and it was sent through the club. So hopefully you all have the resources to have either your club send something out for you. If not, pretty easy to go on and create a flyer on whatever clinic or anything that you want to create. So we did that, and then while we were doing one of the clinics, I just had some people take pictures of myself and our director of golf at the time, who was out there, and we were giving the instruction. It was all very, basic instruction according to, the principles model in the PGA. And I would say that as you go through everything, and as you start giving lessons and evaluating everything, speak in the language of the ball flight laws and the principles. So I ended up going through the teaching and coaching path. I'm still playing now in some of our, section events here and senior events. And I, for my own playing and everything, stay in kind of that box of the 14 principles and ball flight laws. So, we would go through those principles with the students, and we kept it very basic. For a lot of the ladies, beginner ladies especially, I find they would grip the club in the palm of their hand. So it was very simple. We got them to grip it in their last 3 fingers and build a lever system and make an L and use principle 11 and learn how to pull that lead hand through and rotate the back of the wrist through impact. I mean, it was basically that simple. And so we would build flyers around that. Hey, we're going to teach these principles or things like that, and kept it very simple. So we had the flyer, we had the pictures, and as you go through your coursework and where you have to have the flyer, the picture, how you promoted it, and then you have to fill in when you pull up your Word document, when you go on there on player development, whether it's 1 through 8 sessions. I think we said we built that we had 5 sessions. One was full swing, one was chipping, one was putting. And then on the flyer, we would use, I think a lot in terms of threes. We would just put 3 bullet points on there. You don't want to put too much information on there because it can get a bit confusing. So we'd say, hey, we're going to cover these three topics on the flyer. And then, of course, when you're filling out this part, when you're uploading this information, you need to put the financial piece in there. And we charge basically $5 per student. Put that information in there, and we just did our traditional split with the club on whatever the income was. And some of you may be able to keep 100% of your lessons. Some are 20/80. We did our traditional split. And go ahead and go to the next slide there, John. And go ahead and go to the next one too on this one, because I think there's only, there's my thought process of the threes. But we're now doing junior league. Our younger assistants are doing junior league at our current club, and I'm helping them because they're in level 1 and 2 also. And so for them to use through their player development coursework, we're using everything we're doing junior league. We've got the pictures in the newsletter of the kids in their jerseys. It's great. We don't have to recreate anything. We have all the different marketing materials and programs. So the key there is they're already doing it. If you're already doing one of these programs at your facility, then to get through to complete this portion of the coursework is going to be much easier. And then, you know, figuring out staffing, promoting all that, like I said, and running the programs and scheduling it, and you know, pretty much just get it on the calendar, get it done. Send your information out through your club media, however you do, whether it's email, social media, or anything, and let it roll. And I didn't expect to have between, you know, 10 and 20 students, but we had to actually cap it out when we were doing the ladies instructional clinic for $5. That, I mean, we ended up having close to 20. So we had to go over the side of the range and build it out, and it was great because it coincided with getting this coursework done. So I'll stop there and open it up, see if anybody has any questions on that piece of it. Yeah, pretty basic.
Yeah, no, Dana, can you talk a little bit about how the examination was for the player development once you got to the testing? I'm talking beyond the work experience kit. Can you talk a little bit about what you recall from the examination portion of this?
Yeah, it and by the way, I passed my mortgage exam on the first try, but did not pass my PGA exam on the first try. So it was far more difficult than I had anticipated, and there was a lot more on the numbers, all of the verbiage, and you know, the terminology. So I would say when you get to the point where you are taking the exam, it has, when you first log on your portal, and it has examples of exam questions. The only thing I don't like, of course, they don't give you the answers. They give you all the examples of the exam questions, and then you got to figure out all the answers. So when you're in your seminar, that's actually a good point. I wish I would have done what I did on level 2 and 3 was more active, as I had those exam question samples. And during the seminar, when specific ones came up that was along the coursework, I would ask, you know, how that correlated, so I could get some of the answers and look it up and go through the coursework and the manuals and everything, because some of it's pretty vague and subjective when you answer it. And but specifically, from what this test was 2 years ago for me, John. So from a specific testing aspect, I remember a lot of it was on the specific vocabulary of it, where to find the resources, how you put the programs together, and then it did, you know, ask some on the numbers of putting the program together. So definitely along those lines. Is that kind of where you're going at?
How, in looking back on it now, how would you have studied and prepared for it better?
Yeah, definitely. The questions on the samples, I think I would have gone more in detail with the questions that they give you when you log into the portal as example questions. So I would have gone back and forth between that and then the manual on each category. So under the player development category, in your level 1 manual, I would go through that manual, and then I would take the example of the questions, and I would make sure that I could answer those questions open book with the manual. And then I would start to get into speaking that language of terminology. The sooner I got in, and just the whole way through, as far as the testing, was speaking in the language of the terminology. Like, for example, when I give a lesson now, and if on the teaching and coaching path from level 2 and 3 on, I mean, everything is about speaking in ball flight laws, principles, learning the motor pattern, intrinsic, intrinsic feedback, And so as you go through the language that they're speaking, start speaking that in your everyday use at work with your students, whatever, corresponding path you're going to take. What I found is the more I started speaking in the language of everything with the sample questions and the course material, it just became more natural to me.
Excellent. Now, for everybody who's on the webcast this afternoon, this is meant to be interactive. So everyone, feel free to unmute yourself and make your video available if you can, and share your experiences. If you've been through level 1 already and you recall the player development, this is a perfect opportunity to share your experiences for the good of the group, or any questions that you might have for Dana or anybody else on the LaunchPad.
Hey, Dana,
Yeah.
This is Tom. I kind of remember a little bit, when I was taking the exam in player development and coaching, the thing that really tripped me up a lot is, I was not a biology major in college, and I didn't know the muscle groups, and I didn't understand, where the pecs were and what have you. And, whether it was, lower side or upper side. And it seemed like there was a lot of, if I remember back, it seemed like there were a lot of questions kind of about some of that stuff. And I would recommend that, our students, our associates, pay attention to, upper syndrome, lower syndrome, upper cross, lower cross, things like that. I don't know if you thought the same thing. That's
a good point. And they do go into the ADM model and the age group for learning, and what activities and what activity and age group levels, what they can comprehend. And so there is that section definitely to go through on that as well.
Well, I'm sure in future work experience kits surrounding player development work experience kits, I'm sure the PGA.coach is going to play a huge role in that going forward, in terms of how well the associate is using that platform.
Yeah, for sure. What about the next slide? I think the second one. Yeah, and this kind of goes into this piece too, is PGA Junior League at the club is, as far as completing the work experience and the instructional leagues, what we talked about, goals, same kind of thing there. We were just talking about with the pandemic, our membership this past 2 years went from probably 550, 600 to now 750. It's full because we have 36 holes, and a tremendous amount of beginners and new players coming in. And our main goal is to keep all of those new players and make sure they're having fun, make sure they're utilizing the facility, they're all getting into merchandise, we're doing fittings with them, they're buying clubs, we have new golfers, they're bringing in their kids, of course, and everything. Now that doesn't relate to getting through the testing piece of it and everything. From the testing aspect, all I could say is, just study everything that you've gone over when you're going through the seminar, and those sample questions that they give you on there, they're on there. And so that's a good guide as far as the study piece. And then, of course, I think what felt more overwhelming to myself and a lot of the other students or associates that I was working with was just getting the work experience done. The work experience portfolio is what seemed to just drag everybody on. So I spent more time on that. and then of course the test, some people test easy, some it's easy for them, some it's not. But the work experience portfolio was overwhelming to me. And that's what I probably could have, you know, felt like I could have done it a lot, some of the other things faster. But that was the hardest part for me, was just getting through the work experience portfolio. And then you pull it up and it just seems like it's endless. So that's why I was like, just, you got to take that a little bit at a time, a little bit each day. And then, yeah, from the testing aspect of it at the end, as John and Tom pointed out, you know, I can't give you any other thing, but man, just study, know it, because like I said, the examples and then the manuals, just you got to know it. It's that simple. So that's pretty much you know, what I wanted to share, and then now I'm good to open it up to any kind of Q&A.
Not to call out on anybody, but Danny Moon, Jiso Park, Jonathan Strange, Nathaniel Butler, anybody, Blake Smith, Ed Winecki, of course, is works for the section and just was presented on the Catalyst webinar series last week. He's joining us for the first time. Of course, Ed's a longtime PGA member and certified club manager as well. Ed, thanks for joining us this afternoon on the LaunchPad. Any takes from the player development portion of the Level 1 Work Experience Kit? I know you've got your Class A many moons ago, but I'm sure you've worked with from a lot of new members that have come fresh out of the program. What you've taken from what you've picked up from new members going through player development Level 1?
Well, John, thanks for mentioning that, and Dana, thanks for what you're doing today. What I can tell you is that anybody who's on the call, you're on the call for a reason, and that's because you want to learn, and you want to learn how to get past Level 1, and so on and so forth. So this is, I know sometimes it might be hard to chime in, or you might be a little embarrassed, but I will tell you that when I used to give seminars and I used to participate in seminars, the more that I actually was able to participate, the more I got back. So don't ever feel like asking any question is not appropriate, because again, if it's maybe not the answer that you were looking for, someone else might chime in and get the right answer. So all I can say, John, is that what Dana put in here is fantastic. And all you can do is learn from this. And the goal of these, as John said, is just to make you better so that you can pass. I mean, that's the #1 goal of these series. So if you have any questions ever, now is the time to ask. And I would implore all of you to do that. And I will be reaching out to all of you, if I haven't already, to help you more with your career and resume building and things like that. But as far as going through the levels, yeah, I would say, John, that this is what it's for. So please don't be bashful. Now's your time.
Now on the call, I see Danny Moon, you're on here, and I know you've reached out specifically regarding your work experience kit around tournament operations. How have you tackled your player development work experience work yet?
I'm still on the portfolio for player development, but I have some question about part 3 and 4, like the implement the program and evaluate the program. Right now, that one is temporarily removed it because of the COVID. But do you guys think it's gonna come out later? Because it depends on when I'm gonna hand it in. If they open it, then I have to complete again.
Sure. I would imagine if it's not there at the moment, it will be soon.
Oh, okay. All right.
Ed, do
That's
you
what
know,
I question right now.
do you know about that?
I don't want to give information that I'm not aware of, so I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
I didn't realize it wasn't on the portal. Was that during the pandemic? Have you checked on that recently, Danny?
Yeah, I just downloaded again from the portal, and the type is it was closed there right now, only in part 3 and 4.
would say knock it out as soon as you can so you don't have to do it.
Yeah, that is why I have to complete as soon as possible.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're going to be adding it back soon.
All right, thank you so much.
Hey, Danny, have you contacted the PGA office, PGA mentor line there to ask them the same question?
About this, no, not yet. But yeah, I didn't ask yet.
I would, if it was me, I would just shoot them a question on that,
Mhm.
you know, or give them a call and, you know, just ask them the same thing. Say, you know, hey, you know, do I need to go through this or what? And I'm sure they'll let you know.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Questions or comments, experiences you want to share before we call it a day? Well, everybody, thank you for joining us on the first installment of the Summer LaunchPad Associate Workshops. We'll be sending an email out of the YouTube recording for this LaunchPad. Also, I'll be including the Education Committee on there and also the Board of Directors for the section. Hopefully everyone got a little something out of this, and something comes up after the fact or you don't like sharing in these kind of forums, feel free to email Dana or myself or Colonel Tom Parker, and of course Ed Winecki, who's on this as well. We're available all the time via email, and hopefully we'll see you next Monday on the LaunchPad. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
Yep.
Stay sane.
Thank you. All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks, John.
Bet. Awesome. Take care, guys.